Hello, welcome to the Blue Room with Neysa. I'm Neysa. I'm so happy to have you back here with me today. I know that I had promised a video coming up on Roe versus Wade, and it is coming. I think the best way to present this is in two parts. So the first part will be the science of life and facts and figures and fetal development. The second portion of that video, because it'll be in two parts. So second part will be the Guttmacher Institute propaganda vomit machine. Margaret Sanger and some of the crap she introduced to the world, as well as some faith and reason. So obviously I'm very pro-life, and I want to make sure that I am presenting what my understanding is of church teaching, but also ways to defend our faith that aren't that screaming, confrontational, heated, emotional discussion. So that is coming, I promise. But I had a conversation with somebody last night at a restaurant and told the story about a car accident I was in. And it occurred to me that when I received the Sacrament of the Sick, or Last Rites, what a monumental moment that was. So I kind of thought maybe this would be just a short little story. I'm going to try to keep it brief. So I was, for my job, driving north of Lansing. I live in very southern Michigan, almost Ohio. So it would normally be about an hour and a half drive, and on a good day with good weather. Well, this was February 13th. We were having horrific weather. I had not gone to work the day before because the roads were awful, and felt guilty about missing 2 days because this was before remote work was like socially accepted and pretty cool. So I hit the road on Tuesday, headed to work because I'd already missed 1 day, and the roads were horrific. There was ice on the roads. It was still snowing. It was freezing rain. It was blowing. The fastest that I could possibly go was about 30 miles an hour, I think, at best. So I finally make it north of Jackson, south of Mason. So I'm kind of in that middle area. If you're from Michigan, you know exactly where I'm talking about. So on that stretch of road, it's a divided highway. So the southbound is over here, the northbound is over here, and in the middle is this big median, and it's kind of shaped like this. So I see a truck coming down the southbound way ahead of me, approaching my direction. This truck gets all squirrely, does a couple loop-de-loops, and then seems to regather and like get their ducks back in a row. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, that person is so incredibly lucky. Like, they saved it. And then immediately lost control again. And at this point, I now see a truck in my periphery barreling towards me, hits the median, and you know how things flash through your head. So I was like, medians, they'll get stuck right in that median. Thank goodness for deep snow. No, this person must have panicked. I think she stomped the gas rather than the brakes. I know she was a she because I met her not long after she launched her truck up in front of me, facing me, and hit me head on. That was a super fun way to start my morning. So in that moment, all of my airbags deployed. Airbags I didn't even know I had. So the dashboard out of the steering column, poof, in my face. There's a curtain one that goes down in front of your feet. There's also a curtain one that drops down over the window. Well, in the moment it was dropping down over the window, my head was going through the window. So as I was being jerked back, the airbag clipped the top of my ear, and I had a significant laceration. My ear felt like it was dangling. I had blood now running all over the place, and I smell smoke. So I now think my car is on fire. So I scramble to get out of the airbag cluster that I'm now encased in, and like stand out of the car. A gentleman who had been right behind me, but in a safe distance because roads sucked, had stopped, just stopped in the middle of the road. So all of the traffic behind him now stopping as well, which is super scary because you've seen where people just start cascading into each other. So it was treacherous and deadly. And he comes up to me, and as he's approaching me, my car is yelling at me, "We've detected a crash," or whatever it says, because my phone is synced up to the onboard radio computer thing. He says, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need to call my husband." And I don't know if my car had already called 911 or if I said yes, call. I have no idea. But all I know is I knew I needed to call my husband, and I couldn't get my phone to disconnect from my car. So I handed it to him, and I'm like, "Bleh." make it work. And he did. So he helped me call my husband. I told him I was in an accident, and that I think that I'm okay, but I don't know. And I was pretty shaky and upset, and I was really worried he was going to be upset that the car was broke, because the car was way broke. And that was just shock, stress, and adrenaline, because that's not who he is. On a normal day, like if I wrecked the car, 100% not injured, and I'd be like, oh, this just happened and it sucks. His only concern would be, and was, are you okay? I don't know. I'm standing up. There's a very nice man helping me call you. I don't know what. I need you to come get me. And he's like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, okay, but the roads are really bad, so you should drive carefully. Duh. Anyways, so state trooper shows up. I'm not sure how long I waited. It seemed like forever, but I'm sure it probably wasn't. And he was lovely. And so, he gets all of my information, keeps telling me you need to get in my vehicle and off the road, because you're going to be safer in a vehicle. And I was like, didn't feel like it a few minutes ago. So he puts me in the back seat of like the state trooper SUV thing. And then he brings the lady that hit me and puts her in the back seat as well. And there's like equipment or a box or something we're divided, which was probably a really good thing. And she's just chatty Cathy. And oh my gosh, I knew I shouldn't have driven the truck today. The roads are so bad. I should have driven my car instead. The truck it's so hard to control on icy roads and blah, blah, blah. And finally the cop comes back to ask me a question. And I'm like, dude, you've got to get her away from me, because you're going to end up taking me to jail instead of the hospital. And he kind of chuckled, because I think he understood that I was done. So he put her back in her vehicle to get more information. And then time elapsed and an ambulance showed up, and the paramedics, I was in scrubs because I'm a nurse, and I was on my way to I was doing a corporate consultant. So I knew I was going to be on the floor that day, and I was in scrubs. So they see me, and I don't think I even had a coat on at that point. And it's raining, freezing rain, cold, miserable. I look like a drowned rat. And they're like, oh, you're wearing scrubs. Do you work in the healthcare field? And I go, yes, I'm a nurse. So they're like, oh, thank goodness. Well, they should have known better. Nurses are, one, horrible patients, and two, we way underestimate the damage done to ourselves. So they helped me climb into the rig, and I'm just sitting there, and they're like, so, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I hit my head, my ear is bleeding, and it's still gushing blood, and pretty sure I broke a rib, and I think my hand went through like my steering column, because I was swollen big time on my wrist. I might have broke my wrist. But other than that, all in all, a little shaky, a little worked up, but I think I'm okay. And they're like, okay, let's check your blood pressure and check your oxygen level. Okay, standard operating procedure. So they do. My blood pressure is through the roof. And I'm like, I'm not normally hypertensive. I am sure this is shock and adrenaline, because adrenaline is a powerful thing. Like, this is the body's reaction to trauma, chaos, fear. This is the thing that allows mothers to lift cars off their babies, right? So I am feeling really strong. Like, I have done like a head to toe quick inventory on how do I feel, and I had a few spots I had identified, and other than that, I was pretty good. So they're talking to me, and they're like, do you need to go to the hospital? I go, probably am going to have to go to the hospital, because my husband's coming to get me, and when he sees my wrist, he's going to want me to go get it checked. There's nothing anybody can do for this broken rib. I am having some pain in my neck and into my shoulder, but it was like located like right through here, right? So the paramedics were like, that's probably from your seatbelt. When you go to the hospital, make sure you tell them so they can check that out as well. Okay, cool. I had no intention of actually going to the hospital, but I also didn't want them to insist that I go and then me tie up a rig, because my concern was that there was somebody else in an accident further down the road, either direction, that was going to be much more injured than me, and I did not want to tie up those resources, because all I needed was a ride. I didn't need active medical treatment, so I thought. So my husband shows up, sticks his head in the ambulance. They're like, hey, what's going on? He goes, I'm here. This is my wife. Can I take her to the hospital? Or does she need to go with you guys? They're like, nope, she's good to go. So in that moment, like, there was no hands-on, like, checking. No stethoscope ever touched my chest. They believed me because I'm a nurse, and nurses know stuff. But nurses are horrible patients. So I get in my husband's vehicle and we head to the hospital. And I get on our way. I'm like, okay, so you know this, right? We've been on the scene of several accidents when we've gone to help people. The minute they hear that I was hit head on by a truck, they're going to throw me on a backboard with a C-collar. Don't freak out. I'm going to be pretty pissy about it, but it's going to probably happen because that's trauma protocol. He's like, yeah, I know. Just try to be nice. And I'm like, I'm going to be nice, but it's awful. So we get there, and it's a hospital that I had worked at 20 plus years ago. And one of the nurses there recognized me, and they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm like, I just got hit head on by a pickup truck in a little car. My car is totaled, and I figured I better get checked out. And they're like, okay, come on back. We'll put you in a room. So no backboard, no C-collar. I walk to a room. And I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling a little loopy. The adrenaline is starting to taper off a little bit. I'm now freezing because I'm soaking wet and I'm in shock. So they get me to the room, and the doc comes in like really quick. You know how they, in the ER, they're sometimes just like, Soup, what's up? All right, what do I need to order? And out the door they go. So she comes in, what's up? I got hit head on. They want to know, was I driver? Was I passenger? Was I wearing a seatbelt? Did airbags deploy? All of the nonsense that we ask every time there's a car crash. So I answer all the questions, identify the sore spots, and now the neck, shoulder area is getting to be a lot more painful than, like, say, the wrist or the ear. Because at this point, my ear is no longer bleeding. In fact, I refuse to allow them to stitch it because I'm a pain in the ass. Anyways, so she's like, okay, we're going to get x-rays. We'll x-ray your wrist. We'll x-ray your arm and your shoulder. We'll do your chest because of the rib. There's nothing we can do for a broken rib. And I'm like, I am well aware of that. So I walk all the way down, and it's like a long hall of a bunch of rooms because it's a larger hospital. And then another long hall, and then into the x-ray. And they do, it felt like 50 pictures because there was different body parts and whatnot. And at that point, I'm now fatigued. I am really uncomfortable and getting grumpy when I don't feel good. I'm not the kindest person in the world. And so it's a character flaw, I know. So this sweet little x-ray tech is like, okay, I'll walk you back to your room. And I'm like, I know how to get there. She's like, nope, it's my job. I gotta walk you. So as we're walking down the first hall, she's like, so wow, a car accident, how the weather's really bad, and I know the roads are really bad, and blah, 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 blah. She's like a cartoon mouse who just, bah, 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 bah. That's my perception, anyway. And I'm really hurting. The pain in my shoulder is intolerable. And I'm starting to get short of breath because I'm in so much pain. And like walking is a struggle. And I've got like, I don't know if you've ever been like super lightheaded or dizzy or on the verge of passing out, but like my lips started to feel like that tingly sensation. My vision was kind of doing this a little bit. I felt like crap. And I just wanted her to stop talking to me. And so when I asked her, I go, please, I don't want to talk. I can get myself back to the room. Like seriously, all the way to the room. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I didn't want to be unkind. And I knew that I wasn't being a generous person, that she was just trying to help me, but I was miserable. So I go in, and rather than get back on the gurney, I sit in the chair. My husband's over in the corner on the phone with our insurance company doing whatever you got to do when you're in a car crash with insurance. And I'm so short of breath and so uncomfortable that I'm actually leaning over onto the gurney, sitting in a chair. This is what's called the tripod position in nursing. And it's done by patients that are in respiratory distress, whether from a disease process or an injury, because they're trying to have more room to let their lungs expand, to breathe. And I'm not having a lot of luck. And I'm like bent way over, and I'm trying really hard. And I'm thinking that it's from my broken rib and also whatever I did to my collarbone, because I'm confident at this point all of this is broken because the pain was excruciating. So the doctor comes in just a few moments later. Husband is still on the phone. And if you're in the medical field, you know that sometimes there are looks that we give each other. Like an ER doc will go, or nurses will do the side eye at each other like, this was not what we were expecting, or things just went south, or it's never good. Okay? So the doctor comes in and her eyes are big, and she's got a resident, I think, with her, and my nurse and a new hire nurse. So I don't know if this was a new grad nurse or just new to the hospital, but my room just filled up with people. And the doctor goes, ma'am, because no longer am I Neysa or Mrs. Stacy. I'm now a ma'am, because how are you feeling? And I said, very honestly, like hammered dog poop. Like, I this is almost the worst pain I've ever been in. And I've been through some stuff, so that's saying something. And she goes, well, I just looked at your x-rays, and your left lung is almost fully collapsed. And so I went from grumpy and uncomfortable, like grumpy and miserable, to full-on panic mode. So rewind 20 years. And my dad was in the hospital, not the same hospital, obviously. He had a central line put in, which is where they put an IV like in through here. And it's a big IV. Well, they punctured his lung, and it went undetected, and subsequently his lung collapsed. And because of the collapsed lung in the filling chest cavity, he went into cardiac arrest and subsequently died. This happened on February 11th. So this is 20 years ago. This is February 13th. That is all very fresh in my mind because I think of that. I relive that every February 11th. So I'm just now finding out that I'm dying the same way my dad did and freaking out. I'm a nurse and I know what they can do to reverse a collapsed lung. But my brain wasn't there. My brain was right there with my dad. So I say to my husband, get off the phone, which he does. And he says, what do I need to do? Because they're the docs and everybody, they're like wheeling in the equipment. They're going to sedate me. They're going to do this procedure, blah, blah, blah. And I hold on. I need a priest. And so Ron makes a phone call. I get a priest. And I love this priest. He, Father Tommy, he's amazing. And this was only his second winter of his entire life that he experienced snow. Yep, one of the worst driving days I've ever seen as an adult. And I asked this beautiful pastor, priest, to brave the roads to come give me the sacrament of the sick. And like I said, my sense of time and time passing is very skewed. So when I say that he showed up like that, it could have been 30 minutes. I have no idea. And that may have even happened before we knew I was in big trouble. I don't know. All I know is he showed up and gave me the sacrament of the sick. And I had zero expectations on how I was going to physically feel about it. I just knew this was something I needed to do because I needed that clean slate, right? So, as soon as he completed it, from my toes, the very ends of my toes started to feel warm. And mind you, I'm shocky, soaking wet still, stressed right out, and can't stop shaking. And all of a sudden, this warmth begins to flood me from my very tippy toes. And it works its way all the way to my heels, and then up my shins, and then my thighs. And then my abdomen is just filled with this warmth. And it comes all the way up my chest and into my neck and my head, into the top of my head. Like, I could feel heat right at the top, like right here on my head. It did not relieve my pain at all, but I was so filled with warmth that I was at peace. And in that moment, I turned to my husband and I go, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And he was like, whew, thank goodness. Because I think he thought I meant, I'm going to be just fine. This is no big deal. Moving on. But what I really meant was, I win either way at this point. Like, I'm at the finish line, first place, winning all the trophies because I either A, am going to live through this and get to see my children and spend more time with my husband on earth, or B, I don't live through this and that feeling of comfortable peace and warmth, that's going to be my forever. And it was a game changer for me. I lost an entire week from the moment that they began the procedure to put a chest tube in until I was home. I came home on a Saturday. I have my own memories starting like the following Wednesday. Everything I know in between is just stories that were told to me by my husband or people who came to see me. But I was in ICU for the week. Like, there have been several times in my faith journey where I have, like, been hit with that obvious evidence. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know about those stories, like the 2x4 to the forehead, or the sweet hospice patient who I got to see his family member lovingly take him to heaven. And not literally see, but you know what I mean. Just so many miraculous things that I've been a witness to that have reinforced my faith. This was a big one. One of the other big reinforcing moments in my life was when, I think I talked about this before, the priest that I had when I was confirmed was moved to another parish, and so we got a new priest. I have won the priest jackpot, just so you know. So the priest that left, we were very good friends, and when he left, I was heartbroken. And then the priest that came was much younger, but I swear, this kid, he's an adult, but this priest is wise beyond his years and such a good and holy man. And having my good buddy priest move, and I'm still friends with, we still talk, made me realize that I didn't go to church to hear this very dynamic speaker talk. I go to church for the Eucharist. That's it. Like, that's my faith. I go to sit at the Lord's table. That's it. And the new priest is, perfect, great, and wonderful. But I don't go to church for the music, which is sometimes really good. I don't go to church for the dynamic personalities, right? Of whoever's giving the homily, or whoever the lector is, and they've got this big booming voice and they're very animated. No. I'm there for supper, right? So then when I received the sacrament of the sick, it was one of those moments for me. I realized in that moment, there's no room in my soul for doubt. There's no room in my heart for mistrust or what ifs. I know this is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing, and that it is right and it is good with every ounce of my being. I know that better than I know my own reflection in the mirror. And I'm so grateful that I was blessed with the opportunity to experience that Sacrament of the Sick, or Last Rites. So I would encourage anyone who, if you're having surgery, if you're in an accident, if you've just been diagnosed with a terminal diagnosis, reach out to your priest and request it. If you've got a loved one who is going to have surgery, just in an accident, had an awful diagnosis, please reach out for them and offer them this beautiful, lovely gift. It is a feeling like nothing I've ever felt. And I didn't really share that flooding, overwhelming sensation with anybody. I think I told my husband. I told him after he received Sacrament of the Sick and described the same type of sensation. I don't know that this is the way it always is for everybody. I'd be kind of curious to hear, but it's how it was for me. And Sacrament of the Sick, you can receive more than once. So if I were to go today to the store and somebody schmucked me again, God forbid, I could ask for the sacrament and receive it again. So it's beautiful, and it's life-giving, and it's fulfilling, and it's amazing. And if you or a loved one are in a position where your life could be in jeopardy, or there is a risk, or whatever, you're sick, and please call your priest. It's not an imposition. It's not a waste of their time. It's a beautiful sacrament, and our priests love our sacraments. So with that being said, that is all I have for today. I will see you next time, and I promise it will be the two-part video that I'll try to, when I drop them, I'll try to drop them very close together so that they flow. But thank you so much again, and this is Neysa from the Blue Room, wishing you a great and fantastic day.